There's an air of anticipation up here in Washington, D.C. We are 18 hours away from this new Congress taking control. That's the damage that we all felt last night. Jeff, what are the chances that we see that again tonight? They're using bucket trucks, so they're trying to get more of an aerial or elevated view to try and find the suspect. It seems like a weird connection in a way. You're originally from Connecticut, Harvard grad, worth $200 million. Does that fit around in here? And the criticism with your plan, Mr. McDonald, is simply that it's unproven, that these are rehashed topics. There is no question that this was a somber day, but I think it would be difficult to walk away from the ceremonies that were held here and not be inspired. Hurt's home is just a couple of blocks from his law office, comes complete with the white picket fence, and his parents are just right across the street. Talk about an understanding wife. I want to make sure, under-earning what your set goal is, that doesn't mean that you're not making a profit. Are you saying tonight that you are not making a profit? Like that? Oh, right in the face again.
Yeah, sometimes if there's customers there, sometimes it goes the other way.
Yes. Let me focus on another topic that I think a lot of people will be talking about in the days to come, and that's how do you pay for this cleanup? How are you going to pay for it? I know it's going to be expensive, right?
That is correct.
You're not really at risk of not making a profit, are you? I mean, you've got record profits of $155 million in one report in 2008. You were at a over 5% average profit between 2008 and 2010. So you're not at risk of not making a profit, are you?
Well, no, sir, you're absolutely incorrect. The reality is that Appalachian Power Company has not reached its authorized rate of return for a number of years now. And so that is not the case with us. We are actually under-earning as a company at this time.
Now back up though, I want to make sure, under-earning what your set goal is, that doesn't mean that you're not making a profit. Are you saying tonight that you are not making a profit?
Oh, no, I'm not saying that.
Can you understand how people at home who are now maybe investing thousands of dollars in hotel rooms this week, have lost food that was in their refrigerator, in their freezer, who have been out maybe a generator cost and are now 5 days into a power outage and hear from you that you might not make your 10% profit and you may pass along the cleanup to this, that might be frustrating to them?
Oh, I'm sure it's frustrating to them.
Well, it's the first day on the job for dozens of congressional leaders up on Capitol Hill. The nation's 113th Congress convened in Washington today, swearing in both newly elected and re-elected officials. Now, here are the facts about this year's class. There are 84 House freshmen. WSLS 10's Aaron Martin spoke to Senator Kaine shortly after he was sworn in and joins us now live in our newsroom. Aaron, we all know that while this is a new Congress, there are a lot of old problems that still need to be addressed. Did Senator Kaine give you any idea of how he plans to address those issues in his new role?
Yeah,
as dogs from Roanoke's Regional Center for Animal Control and Protection, who participated in the Dickens of a Christmas Parade, are now finding homes. As you reported last month, a new partnership with Angels of Assisi and the center is taking the dogs out to events to try and get them adopted. New tonight at 11, WSLS 10's Morgan Donnelly updates us on the progress of those adoptions. Morgan, it's so nice to have a good story here. What are the numbers here?
Well, Jake.
The 4 points of the Miss America crown are style, service, scholarship, and success. And today, the young woman who represents those 4 things for the Commonwealth hopped on a plane to pursue her dream. Emergency rooms and walk-in clinics across the country are full of people infected with the flu. And according to the most recent information released from the CDC, flu activity is now at its highest level in the South, including right here in the Commonwealth. WSLS 10's Carrie McNew joins us now with a look at some groundbreaking research. Well, from the Blue Ridge Parkway to Mill Mountain, the Roanoke Valley is known for its outdoor attractions, but why not get a taste of them as well?
Oh, sounds good.
60 degrees in
60.
January. How about that?
It's not record-breaking, but hey, you know what?
It's pretty darn good.
It's pretty darn good no matter how you slice it. You got that right, buddy.
All right, I'm sure many of you are fed up with Congress, and the owners of one local business have found a, well, unique way to show their frustration. This week, the Roanoke Bagel Company on Electric Road is featuring the Congressional Sandwich on its menu. Okay, so what type of sandwich is it? Well, bologna, of course. Co-owner Amelia Goodacre says the sandwich is in honor of all the chaos going on in Washington. Goodacre says they're using top-end bologna for the sandwich, but much like Congress, she says it's still bologna. Whether you pay a lot for it or not, still get the big old bologna sandwich. That's kind of cool.
Most of us don't get any money for shoveling snow.
No, in fact, except a sore back.
Sore back.
It's interesting to me that these coaches that have just been fired now all of a sudden hot commodities in other cities.
I've never
It's strange, isn't it?
I've never understood it. I would have expected more coordinators to be looked at.
Yeah.
But it's not happening.
Folks, here's a copy of the proposal. I've read it and looked at it, and I can tell you that, in fact, this proposal wants to save the vendors in our market building. Did you read that before you voted today?
No, it was being we were briefed on this a couple weeks ago, and the city manager had read it and she rejected it.
That's an awful lot of power in her hands to reject it when you're the elected representatives of the city on an issue that is vitally important to the city.
But we give the executive certain responsibilities that she has to, and the council at that time concurred, and I concurred with the city manager rejecting that proposal simply because the tenants have not been consulted. So what I would say to you or anyone else, ask the tenants if they were consulted.
But how do you concur if you haven't read the proposal yourself?
I didn't concur.
You just said you concurred with the city manager. How do you concur with the city manager if you haven't read it?
Because I listened to the public, and the public said the people that I think were most interested in this proposal felt like they weren't consulted. And so I don't care what was in the proposal. When Chico is happy down there, I'm going to be happy.
So what's in this proposal that most members of City Council did not read? I was given an in-depth look at this plan in a story that you will only see on WSLS 10 on your side. It's light and airy. There are vendors throughout, and you can buy anything in here. It's the North Market in Columbus, Ohio, and soon something very similar to this could be in Roanoke.
I mean, it's going to happen, yeah.
That was an always optimistic Bill Carter a month ago. He's leading a coalition of groups behind this plan, an overhaul of the downtown market building. On paper, the proposal is expansive and ambitious. On the ground floor, there will be stalls in the middle and along the walls. Here's another look at the Columbus market. Ours will look something like this if the proposal is approved, with the center reserved for vendors that don't require a cooking vent. Here's the look inside the market building. All these tables would vanish, and they'd put in a center aisle for the vendors here, and imagine that full of flowers, crafts, cheese, basically you name it. Now the food vendors would stay, but they'd be along the outside wall here, selling the food that we're used to, but in addition to that, these vendors would be required to add a retail component. For instance, Chico's might sell, as an example, pizza dough that you could take home, or down at the barbecue place, they might sell bottled barbecue sauce.
The next Vice President of the United States, Paul Ryan.
Paul Ryan talks a lot about spending cuts and reining in government, but we wanted some more specifics. During my one-on-one sit-down, where the backdrop was pure rural Virginia, I asked the congressman to give us more information, starting with the cuts he'd make. And can you tell us today what programs you would cut?
We're the ones that passed the budget. We're the ones who put it on paper and passed it through Congress.
But today, can you give us specific programs you would cut?
Sure, we said we should cut domestic discretionary spending by 5% right away.
Which
that means government
programs?
Agency budgets across the board, domestic government agencies. Here's the problem. The only specific net spending cuts that President Obama is willing to embrace are what we think are devastating defense cuts. That puts 136,000 jobs in jeopardy in Virginia alone. Take a look at the legislation we passed. It's very specific, and Mitt Romney has literally put more ideas on the table, more specific solutions on how to prevent a debt crisis than the incumbent president of the United States has.
But it's not just the spending cuts that Ryan mentions. He also talks a lot about taxes out on the campaign trail.
Regulating, taxing.
And again, we asked for more specifics. You're both proposing specific cuts to loopholes, tax loopholes as well. Can you give us a specific loophole that you would cut?
Yeah, so what we think is we want to lower tax rates across the board for everybody. And we want to start with higher income individuals. So when a high income person shelters their money from taxation by putting it in a tax shelter, then they don't pay taxes on it. We want to close those tax shelters on higher income people so we can lower tax rates for everybody. Would you save or would you protect mortgage deductions? I don't want to get into all these kinds of things.
I think those Southwest Virginians have a right to know the answer to that question.
We want Southwest Virginians to be involved in this process. We want their congressmen like Bob Goodlatte to be involved in participating in how to write these details. What I've learned—
That's an important deduction for
it is an important
and middle-class people.
Yeah, and
right?
so here's what we're saying. There is room in the tax code, even with these tax rate reductions, for middle-class tax preferences, but we don't think there's room for higher income tax preferences.
And how does Congressman Ryan get that accomplished? Leave it to Congress.
But here's the best way to get things done in Congress. We're not going to go to Congress and say it's our way or the highway. Here's specifically how you have to do it. Or we don't want to cut some backroom deal like they did with Obamacare. We want to do this in the public, with Congress, with the public participating in this debate. And so let's have a debate with your congressmen, with your senators, with the people of Virginia to decide what are the best ones to keep for middle-class taxpayers.
The Daily Progress, in endorsing you, even said this about your plan. It's not useful as a blueprint, for it depends on revenue sources that are unreliable or speculative, such as offshore drilling, royalties, privatizing state liquor stores, or tapping into port growth. This is a group, by the way, that endorsed you. So we're hearing some criticism for your plan as well.
Well, anything that's going to get done in transportation.
All right, Mr. Dees, let's get you into this conversation then. Sure. And part of the question about your plan is how do you pay for it? Are you open to a tax increase, and what would you be open to?
What I've said to Jay is that anything that has a nexus to transportation that
criticism he raised, which was a blank sheet of paper. You're saying I'm open to tax increases, but don't Virginians have the right to know exactly what they'll be paying more for in taxes before they vote for you or Mr. McDonald?
And what I'm saying...
What tax would we see increased under Cree deeds?
What tax would you see increased under Cree deeds?
And the criticism with your plan, Mr. McDonald, is simply that it's unproven, that these are rehashed topics, or that we don't know how much money we're going to get off royalties. We don't know if the Panama Canal is actually going to be widened and enlarged by the year 2012. All these are components of your plan. So what's plan B? If those things don't work, if the economy doesn't improve, which is a component of your plan as well, what's plan B to make sure our roads do get fixed?
Jay, I spent 21 years in the Army, 4 years as Attorney General, been in the legislature a long time. It's going to take leadership to get it done.
It's in your advertising, Mr. Boucher, talking about where Morgan Griffith lives. You don't officially live in the 9th District. You live in the 6th District, although close to the line. And I want to get to a quote from you, Mr. Griffith. In the Roanoke Times back in October 21st of 2008, you appeared to criticize your House opponent in the House of Delegates race. That was Democrat Carter Turner, saying he had been gone from that district, your House district, for 20 years. Of yourself, you said, quote, being a product of the district helps me understand where constituents will be on an issue. I've operated a business here on Main Street for 25 years. That gives me a feel for the community. Your words seem to indicate that you need to be a resident of a district to really understand the constituents. Do you?
Well, I think it's a question of whether you're talking about being a part of the community or being on one side of a line or another. That this time next year, actually about 5.5 months after being sworn in, my house will be in the district, but I've been a part of this community my entire life.
Although you don't know that for sure. I mean, that redistricting is not a precise science, and that you're thinking it will, but that's not a definitive.
Oh,
right?
I think it's pretty definitive.
And Mr. Boucher, does he not have a point, though? Because you almost make it sound like in these ads that he's coming from New York or Washington, D.C. He's from Salem, rural Virginia, and in fact went to college in your congressional district. Is Salem that different than Radford or Blacksburg?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to concede the idea that Salem inevitably will be made a part of the 9th District.
Will you vote for the Simpson-Bowles plan as is? Senator, can I interpret your answer as no to that?
I think the Simpson-Bowles measure should be brought up and work its way through the legislative process.
Would you support it as is?
I would support it as the way I proposed our ideas under our Blueprint for America's Comeback.
If it's brought up as is, would you support it? Yes or no?
I would amend it.
You would amend
Governor Kane,
what would you do?
Same question. I would support a plan that, like Simpson-Bowles...
Just so we can cut through the clutter to the viewers, and you're hearing some laughter here because I think they're a little confused. Is it no and no?
If it's as is, we're both saying no.
All right. That's what I wanted to make.